So how should countries scale up their own military capacities in the face of Russia's threat while also continuing to support Ukraine? Retired Brigadier-General Mark Kimmitt served as the Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs under George W. Bush. He joins us from Washington. General Kimmitt, wonderful to have you back on the program. Thank you for making the time.
Thanks, Bessie.
Do you agree with Canada's Chief of Defence Staff that the defence industry essentially needs to get on wartime footing and ramp up production right now?
Well, I think if you take a look at specific assets that are being used considerably by Ukraine that we're providing, there are certain industries that need to ramp up. Obviously, we've used a significant amount of our drone capability, some of our artillery ammunition that we had in pre-stock. We obviously want to maintain the readiness of the U.S. and forces and our allies, and helping Ukraine draft from that a bit, because it does take from our inventories. But I think at this point we're going to see that the United States at least will be able to keep up with the requirements that are being leveled against us inside the war in Ukraine right now.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about American stockpiles specifically because I've done some reading this week in which some lawmakers, not a majority by any stretch, but a minority of them, are talking about their concerns about the level of aid to Ukraine, not insofar as they're against it, but just like what is it doing to American stockpiles? From where you sit, has there been a significant dent made in the stockpile?
Well, again, it's in certain assets, drones, Javelin missiles, but in terms of the things that we will need most to maintain a ready defense against peer adversaries such as China and elsewhere, I think we're in pretty good shape.
What does it take for the defense industry to ramp up production? Like I'm imagining, as someone who isn't as familiar with it, that it's not like flipping a switch. We're not talking about things that are very simple to build. But if required, how quickly do you think production could ramp up?
Well, it's interesting. We have a capability that we give to the president that's called the Defense Production Act. Mm-hmm. He actually invoked this in the last administration to take some more of a defense capability to make respirators for the COVID situation. Respirators were in critical need around the country. And it was interesting to see some of our companies, such as General Motors, quickly switch capabilities from the automotive industry into the respirator industry. In many ways, except for our very highest tech type of equipment, I think after a very short period of time, our production capabilities can ramp up. It will take additional contracting. It will take additional capability brought in. But our people are pretty quick at doing this. Well, the slowest part of this, sadly, is the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. that it takes to get the contracts let to these countries so they can do this.
Just before I let you go, General, I did want to get your take on the status, or the state rather, of the war right now. The last time we spoke, it was just as Russia was saying we're going to increase our presence in the east and the south. It's been a few weeks since then. What is your assessment of where things stand?
Well, candidly, I think we're at a stalemate. There are attacks going back and forth in different areas. We've seen the counterattacks happening in Kharkiv. We've seen the attempt at a large attack by the Russians around Izium. But in many ways, what we're seeing now is sort of like two boxers in the 8th and 9th round, where they're finished with the finesse, and now it's just a slugfest. So we're not seeing a lot of movement on the ground. We're not seeing a lot of land being made and taken by either the Ukrainians or the Russians. There have been no silver bullets or magic weapons that appeared on the battlefield. So I think we're going to see a slog for some period of time.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time, General. Pleasure to have you on with us as always.
Thank you, Bessie.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.